focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. Dell Technologies Forum, media partner CNBC-TV18.
At the recent Dell Technologies Forum in Bengaluru, CNBC-TV18's Mridu Bhandari engaged in a thought-provoking fireside chat with industry experts, focusing on navigating disruption, fostering innovation.
So Manoj, if I can start with you, what are the big macro trends on the tech front that we should be looking out for and preparing for as we step into the future?
I'd like to begin with artificial intelligence. I just want to make three quick comments. Number one, when we look at AI, talent is important and critical. The second comment I want to make is around data infrastructure and the importance of that. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, later as well. But the third most important thing is that whatever we do in AI, we must do within the sandbox of ethics. We've spoken about cybersecurity. My quick message to everyone, the more you invest in security, and please forgive me, Manish, the less secure you feel. And importantly, I'd also like to talk about the ability to have flexibility and scale, and we've spoken about multi-cloud. I can go on, but these were just some of the things in addition to edge computing, and we know 5G, right? So 5G is going to strengthen edge computing because we are going to deliver value cross industry.
Right, absolutely. A lot of interesting things happening. So I'm just going to pick up two of those, artificial intelligence and edge computing. Manish, can you share some real world examples with us of, areas where these have really transformed innovation and have helped sort of reshape industries?
These two technologies have really shifted the paradigm of computing. But with the advent of new accelerators and new working models, these have become real. Edge is where the data is getting created and is getting processed and analyzed together. The use cases spawn industries, Midhu. If you were to talk about banking, you talk about telecom, you talk about startups, you talk about healthcare, you talk about retail. Each one of them have unique use cases. Both of these technologies are able to solve problems that were once considered unsolvable. And that's the power that it brings. It's a brave new world. I don't think technology is an impediment. It's really about us being able to utilize technology to do new brave things.
Yes. So, of course, innovation is going to be driven by technology. Agility and flexibility are also driven by technology. And of course, the last 3 years, we've seen how organizations have had to be agile, have had to adapt themselves to external environments, mitigate potential risks. Give us a sense then, Manoj, if I may come to you, in the face of so many disruptive technologies, what strategies can organizations really deploy in order to decide which technologies to prioritize and adopt and which ones to perhaps put on the back burner?
Yeah, I think it starts with aligning with business strategy of the organization. At the end, we cannot have technology for technology's sake. And I think many times we really miss the point. In the past, as you would know, technologists would only be called into the boardroom if the projector stopped working. And I know that, we used to kind of feel very hurt because as technologists, we felt, that's really not our job. But the reality is, how do we align ourselves from a technology imperative perspective with business strategy? So that's the first point. The second point I'd like to make is it's very important for us to understand what is keeping our business partners awake at night? And therefore, can we drive cross-collaboration so that we can bring multiple teams together to solve problems? And I think that, again, becomes an important way for us to, therefore, understand what to prioritize. Yeah. The third is to keep our ears and eyes open so that we can understand what's happening in the technology landscape. And I think, last but not least of all, we need to learn that the power of working along with our technology partners and bringing their experience and expertise in will also help us to understand what our peers are doing. And that will also give us an additional impetus and help us to drive what I'd say future success. Right. So I'd say in terms of prioritizing, begin with your strategy, understand what your business users need, keep your ears and eyes open, work with your technology partners, and build success together by bringing the ecosystem.
Right, absolutely. And collaboration is a theme I'm going to touch
Absolutely.
upon in just a minute. But Manish, to bring you in as well, can you share some examples where technology has really helped organizations become more agile and flexible in addressing business challenges and also perhaps mitigating potential risks?
See, you got to remember that technology is not an enabler anymore. It is a business. There are so many organizations that are not in the business, they are only, or rather, they are only in the business of technology. We might see them as being online retailers, but at the heart of it, their business is technology, right? So technology is impacting every single facet of our life as individuals, as consumers, but more importantly, as businesses. It's only through technology that organizations can create a competitive advantage, have the agility and flexibility to turn around and create new business models, new customer experiences, new business models altogether, revenue models by embracing technology.
Like you said, every company is a tech company today, but embracing technology, especially in a legacy enterprise, is not really easy. And you've had a lot of experience with many legacy enterprises. What role does leadership then play in creating a culture that embraces technology and then henceforth embraces innovation?
We all agree that every business today is first a technology business and then anything else. And if you look at the largest and biggest disruptions that are happening today, they are happening by organizations where the leader is a technologist. So, my first message to everyone in the room is that in the future, to my mind, a technologist has a huge opportunity of leading an organization. My second message is that we need to be open to accepting new ideas. And I know a lot of organizations are doing this. I would say the other important thing is that the leader needs to walk the talk. Last but not least of all, driving transformational change on a continuous basis where you can inspire employees and importantly make sure that they enjoy the journey. And I'm sure if we can do this, we'll all be successful.
Right. And what's any journey without having some companions and some collaboration? Well, Manoj, in your experience, what are some of the key considerations that organizations should keep in mind while choosing a trusted technology partner? How should they go about that?
Trust becomes an incredibly important factor. So begin with chemistry, look the other person in the eye. Can you build trust? That's where you begin. And I think from there on, you go on to aspects on technology, the stack, experience, expertise. Has this person been there, done that? That becomes an important part of trying to build the relationship.
Manish, your thoughts on that, and perhaps, how do you see these inclusive partnerships really contributing on the innovation front and ensuring that it's a win-win for both partners?
Well, strategic and long-term partnerships are always a win-win. And the reason they are win-win is because we are going through a journey of digital transformation. Organizations need to digitally transform, go from as is to to be, but also remember the to be also keeps on changing, right? Let's also be very clear that in the changing pace, with the pace of innovation that we have, no one single company can ever bring all the technology. Last thing that I would bring in here is innovation is not just for the two organizations that are in a relationship. That innovation fosters further innovation across the industry and across the entire nation. And that, I think, is a big differentiator for all of us.
Absolutely. Manish, Manoj, thank you so much for joining us here today. Appreciate your thoughts.
Dell Technologies Forum, media partner CNBC-TV18. Dell Technologies Forum, media partner CNBC-TV18.
Continuing the dialogue, Midhu hosted another conversation with industry leaders who shed light on the emerging tech trends and discussed the essential role of fostering diversity and inclusion.
Welcome, everyone. Well, we're talking about diversity and inclusion. And of course, let me begin by saying that thank you for the gender diversity we bring at this panel. Diversity is often talked about in the gender realm, but it goes much beyond that. Kirti, if I may come to you first, what is it that companies can really do today to ensure that they embrace a broader definition of diversity in the first place?
So I think the first thing that organizations need to do is that it has to start really from the top. It has to be a part of the culture, whatever diversity that we are looking at. It could be gender, age, it could be experience, education. So I think that is the most important thing that organizations need to do. The second thing that organizations need to do is they need to have policies in place to be able to bring about diversity and also inclusion in the organization. And I could take examples of some policies in the context of gender diversity. Could be flexi, hybrid working, which is very important for women. In the context of gender diversity, maybe return to work policies, or maybe technology companies can actually start offices where the talent is, so that in tier 2, tier 3 cities, where there are women or underprivileged folks available, uneducated or differently educated, differently able folks are available, one could start operating from there. But the last and the most important thing, Mridu, is that one needs to look at data, and data is an eye-opener. When we started this journey, everybody thought that, oh, we are a diverse organization, we never differentiate.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what we believe.
Jerry, can you share examples of when it comes down to the nitty-gritties of problem solving and decision making, how does diversity help?
We just launched our new campaign, Welcome to Now. You might have seen it right on billboards and in the different commercials. It's one of the first campaigns that we've actually done cross-segment, cross-business, and across all of our different countries all at once. The impetus of how it happened was all of us getting our diverse leadership team together and starting to talk about our next campaigns. And by having the diverse group of employees, agencies, partners, it gave us a comfort to launch something that we had never done before. And I think that's really where you can see the diversity of perspectives helped us change what we were doing in the business, and we've just been thrilled with the momentum on it.
Right, great to hear that. Well, let me also bring in Shaji then. Shaji, unconscious bias often creeps in. All of us at some point or the other suffer from it. Give us a sense then of strategies that companies can adopt and implement to mitigate this unconscious bias, especially when it comes to hiring, when it comes to promotion, when it comes to upgrading people, elevating them within the organization.
So as a rule, we are a very diverse organization, but from a creative point of view, it helps us because we do enjoy and we embrace a lot of diversity across, right? So one, the diversity and the policies has to come very higher up, but we can't leave it very loose-ended. There has to be a lot of targets and policies we put in. In 2018, when we actually looked our data, the percentage of the women employees in the creative space was very early double-digit number. So that was put as a target globally for all of us. The other thing which worked very well is we actually encouraged the team not to ask personal questions in the interviews, right? So that helped us a lot because just judge them from the caliber and the potential they have, their ability to think and create and innovate, just that, right? Then leave it to them to manage the requirement of the job. So that has worked very well. And the third thing which we have been very particular is across the organization in all the levels, make sure it's a diversity is well balanced across the thing.
So Venkat, what's your experience been like on the sales front? I know that traditionally, especially IT, tech sales forces are very male dominated. There hasn't been too much diversity and inclusion traditionally. Today, what is that situation like? And what are the steps that companies can take to effect change and make people accountable for this change within the system?
Leaders have to walk the talk, and therefore it becomes something that will embed in the culture of the organization. During my career in about 14 years in Dell, I've worked with several women leaders, some of them to whom I reported to, some of them who I've had the fortune of them reporting into me. And I can tell you the learning was tremendous.
Wonderful, wonderful to hear that. Kirti, we spoke earlier about data and you were talking about your experience with data. How then can organizations really develop some of these processes within them to have data as far as inclusivity is concerned? Because Data for sales is always available, data for profitability is always available. Diversity dashboards are still not that common, even within large organizations. What steps do you think organizations need to take, and what sort of impact metrics do you need to track to really know that, yes, we are making a change and we are an inclusive and diverse organization today?
So we are a predominantly sales organization. More than 80% of our people are frontline sales folks. And the diversity ratios were not great. And I had the fortune of leading the diversity initiative in the organization at that time. And we just looked at all kinds of data, right? And predominantly for us, two parameters of FLS are important. One is the productivity, and the second is the retention, because attrition numbers are very high. So we looked at these numbers, productivity, retention, and of course the business numbers across male and females. And we were surprised to know that women performed well in all these areas. So the business targets were bang on, the productivity was higher, and the retention was better. The other thing, when it comes to data and AI, because attrition is high, so we are looking at data, what kind of profiles are we able to retain, okay? One is gender, two is education, experience, the backgrounds from which they come from, and I think we are able to create personas. I mean, it's in the early stages now. So the data and AI is helping our HR and business to identify what kind of personas will be able to sell with the empathy and the emotion that we want them to sell with.
Great, great. Good to hear that. Well, you know, Venkat also touched upon culture. And Jerry, I want to come to you with that. To drive sustainable change and inclusive culture is really, really critical. So how can tech companies cultivate such a culture, and not just for attracting diverse talent, but also to ensure that once they are in the system, they have a voice to speak up, they are heard within the system, and they thrive and contribute in unique ways?
If you think about driving the change, something that's been really essential in our journey is it's a business imperative, right? We have customers and companies from all different walks of life with lots of diverse people. If you don't have a diverse employee base, you're leaving, right, opportunities on the table. So really understanding, one, it's a business imperative, like to get a more diverse employee group. I think one of the other ones, you know, we talk a lot about is growth mindset, right? How do we think about different ways of doing things, challenging our own thinking? We have something at Dell called our employee resource groups, our ERGs. So we have 13 of these, and they bring together like-minded communities on a voluntary basis for people that want to get together on certain topics. And what we found is people who, number one, who are involved in these are actually happier employees. But we also get great kind of innovative programs from these groups, right? We have one that's one of my favorites. We have a True Ability Task ERG, and they came up with a new program to actually how to recruit neurodiverse employees into Dell. And so I think this idea of how do you take kind of different pilots, how do you think about it in a different way and challenge our own thinking about how we do recruiting, how we do different things, I think that's so important in the overall journey.
Absolutely. Shaji, you want to add a quick thought to that? How challenging is it to change culture in a 107-year-old organization?
It is very, very challenging. It does take the commitment from an organization. It does take a lot of continuous awareness program to go together. And because we believe that everybody is not equal. Everybody has to be treated a little differently in different regions, for example. So the engagement program has to be also tuned according to that. I personally believe more you involve and include people, take everybody's perspective together, and maybe run a generative AI program to say, okay, geographically or location-wise, ethnicity, what does it make sense to address that particular problem for that particular area? I think that works well.
I'm going to request each of you to give us one parting thought on, you know, what is that one actionable step that a tech company or you as a stakeholder can aim to take to create a more inclusive and a responsible tech ecosystem. Venkat, if I can start with you, just one crisp thought on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great ask. To my mind, building a future that works for all.
Okay, Jerry.
I think measuring it. I had a great mentor that said if you can't measure something, then you don't know where you are. So beginning to measure it just helps you start the conversation.
I think I would pledge my time to make a equitable workplace or an equitable world.
All right, we have pledge of time.
Most of my points are taken over, but I would say equality in the opportunity and pay grade would be something very important to start with.
Absolutely, all very important ingredients, and great. Thank you so much for taking that pledge for a more responsible and inclusive tech ecosystem. The ideas can only be followed if all of us actually adopt them and embrace them in letter and spirit. Diversity and inclusion is not just upon the organization, it's actually upon all of us as well to educate ourselves, make ourselves more aware, and really practice it daily in letter and spirit. So thank you very much for sharing those thoughts with us.
Dell Technologies Forum, media partner CNBC-TV18.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.